everyone. So today we're going to be doing a science experiment where we see a chemical change. So in class, we've been working a lot with physical changes, but we haven't done any chemical changes. So a chemical change occurs when you take a set of substances, mix them together, and they produce a new substance. So many of you have probably done chemical changes at home without ever realizing it. If you've ever baked a cake, you've taken a set of substances such as milk and flour and eggs and butter and mixed them together, put them in the oven, and they came out a new substance. They didn't come out as eggs and flour and milk and butter. They came out as a cake. That's a chemical change. If you've ever done baking soda, put baking soda and vinegar together and it made a volcano, that's a chemical change because you put those two substances together and they produced something new, a volcano. So today, we're going to try to create a lava lamp reaction through a chemical change. So the substances we have are a 1/4 cup of water, food coloring, vegetable oil, and Alka-Seltzer tablets. So Alka-Seltzer tablets are an anti-acid and pain relief medication that some of your parents might have at home or that are easily accessible at the drugstore. So first of all, we're going to add the water into our cup. Now I want you to pause the video and use what we've learned in class about density to think, where is the vegetable oil going to go when I add it in my glass with water? Is it going to mix together? Is it denser? Is the vegetable oil denser than the water? Or is the water denser than the vegetable oil? Pause the video and make a prediction. Okay, great. So let's find out. So it doesn't matter how much oil we use, we're just topping up the glass so we can see the reaction. So if you look closely, you can see that the water stops here on the bottom and the oil is up here. So the water is denser than the oil, which means, as we know, water is heavier than the oil. So next, we need to add our food coloring. But before we add this, I want you to pause the video and make another prediction. Where do you think the food coloring is going to go? What do you think the density of food coloring is? When we drop in the food coloring, is it going to mix all together? It's going to stay on top of the oil? It's going to sink down in the middle? Is it going to go to the bottom of the jar? Pause the video and make another prediction. Okay, so let's find out. I'm just going to add about 15 drops of drops of food coloring. So watch closely. Can you see that? They're sinking, they're dropping through the oil. So they dropped down below the oil, but they're resting on top of the water. So they're staying right in the middle ground, which means the food coloring is denser than the oil, but the water is still denser than the food coloring. So next up, we're going to add our 2 Alka-Seltzer tablets. And I want you, again, to pause the video and make a prediction because we are adding 2 solids to our liquid solution. So I want you to think about what might happen, what is it going to look like when we add solids to our liquid. Pause the video now and make your prediction. Okay, let's find out. So I'm just going to drop them in carefully so it doesn't splash. And you can see they're starting to dissolve because a gas is being produced. The bubbles are rising. And those are just oil bubbles, but right now, oh, I can see a couple. The food coloring is starting to rise with the gas, the bubbles. Oh, wow. A lot is coming up right there, just like the lava lamp we looked at in class. There's some big bubbles and little bubbles. So when the gas brings the bubbles up to the surface, the gas escapes and the food coloring falls back down. And a cycle continues. They're bringing them up with the gas and coming down. So this experiment looks at density and chemical changes, and we saw the density because the water and oil and food coloring don't mix. That's what's so important for this experiment. when we add the Alka-Seltzer tablets, they break apart and dissolve into a gas, dissolve to produce a gas, and then the bubbles collect and multiply, which create the lava lamp effect. So I'm going to leave you with one last question, which is, what do you think might happen if we were to add 5 or 6 Alka-Seltzer tablets? Or what would happen if we added only half an Alka-Seltzer tablet? This is an experiment you could try at home. If you ask your parents for permission, they might allow you to do this. So maybe you can try the different variables, more or less Alka-Seltzer, and see what would happen. I hope you enjoyed this science experiment.